everyone, I'm Anne-Marie from brambleberry.com. Today we're going to do something a little fun, a little different, and a little technical. So we're going to make 10 different batches with 10 different oils, and then we're going to come back in 3 to 4 weeks to see how they behave. A little reminder of the function of oil in cold process soap. Oil is mixed with sodium hydroxide and water in order to create the saponification process where those 3 different ingredients turn into a solid bar of soap. Can you use just one oil to do that? You can. Something like Castile soap, which is 100% olive oil. But typically, each oil has a different function in cold process soap. For example, coconut oil adds to the cleansing ability of a bar and the lather. Castor oil also adds to the lathering abilities of a bar, but it adds to the stability and fluffiness of that lather. Palm oil can add to the hardness of the bar and acts as a secondary lathering agent. Sweet almond oil, moisturizing. Shea butter, moisturizing and hardening. So really, when you're creating your soap recipe, it's all a matter of personal preference, what you're looking for in your bar of soap, and of course, what you think your customers might really love. And this is why most cold process recipes use a blend of oils to get a little bit of each of these type of combinations. So for each of these batches, we're just going to do 1 6-ounce bar. We're doing 0% water discount and 0% super fat. And for sake of purity, no sodium lactate in these bars either. So for this experiment, we're going to be using the 10 oils I most commonly grab when I'm making soap. Olive oil, coconut oil, palm oil, avocado oil, sweet almond oil, rice bran oil, canola oil, castor oil, shea butter, and cocoa butter. So to avoid making a 60-minute video, I'm just going to make one batch with you on camera so you can see my process. And then through the magic of video editing, we're just going to speed everything up and show the rest of these batches being made. All right, we have our 10 single oil batches done. I just want to take a little look here and see, wow, these are very different textures, very different colors, very different little traces, everything. I can hardly wait to unmold these and then come back in 3 to 4 weeks to check in on lather, cut them in half, really see what's going on with the color. I'm a little bit concerned about this coconut. I'm a little concerned the coconut solidified before it's saponified. So I'm going to keep an eye on this one, and if I have to remake it, I will let you know when I come back in 3 to 4 weeks. And we're back. Hello, 6 weeks later, our soap is out, and you can see the massive variation that we have in these bars, both from the smoothness and the texture, the soda ashing, color, like this one, this is the canola. It's already got dreaded orange spots, DOS, a little bit of rancidity starting. Our olive oil is really smooth. This is just a fascinating gel phase in the middle for the cocoa butter. It's a fascinating example of why soap making is an art and a science, why we do blend oils together to get that very perfect recipe. So now we're going to go ahead and do our lather tests. So I'm going to start with the holy trinity of oils. First, we'll do our olive oil, then palm, and then coconut. Now, typically olive oil soap, usually you want it to almost age for about 12 months before using it. That's kind of like the rule of thumb for the best lather and the best hardness. I'm curious how this is. So this is kind of, oh, that's so slimy. Yeah. So this is kind of warm water. It's not hot, but I am not really able to get much lather here. So in soap recipes, palm oil is used as the secondary lathering agent, meaning it helps to support coconut's starring role as lathering, and it's used for hardness. So this bar is very hard. It's very white. It's got some nice lather. It clearly is showing me some bubbles, and it feels like it's a more lotion-like lather rather than kind of a slimy lather. And with palm oil, since it really has that supporting role of the lathering, we're getting some bubbles. You can see some nice bubbles there. But really what the palm oil will do in your soap is help with the hardness. And now we're going to go with the final of our kind of holy trinity of oils. And this is what's in Brambleberry's Basic Quick Mix. It's kind of how I started soap making 25 years ago, was the coconut, the palm, and the olive. That is my perfect recipe. That's why I called it the holy trinity of oils back in the day. So this is the coconut. You can see, like, lather for days. So why wouldn't you just do 100% coconut oil soap all the time, right? It's got great lather. It's white, makes a hard bar of soap. The reason you wouldn't is because coconut oil has really high cleansing ability. What does that mean? It means that coconut oil is going to strip your skin of its natural oils and leave your skin feeling kind of dry and tight if you do 100% coconut oil soap. That's why you need to balance out your recipe with the olive oil or the sweet almond oil, and then use the palm oil as well for that hardness and that secondary lathering agent. But boy, coconut oil lives up to its beautiful ability to lather. Next, we have our sweet almond, and you'll notice that this accelerated trace just a little. That is because of how this oil's like kind of oil component breaks down. I'm expecting, so this is a nice hard bar of soap. I am expecting the lather to be pretty good on this actually. Sweet almond oil is another favorite. It's a good lightweight oil. It's usually a pretty good price. It adds to the moisturizing and the conditioning of a bar. And so a lot of people like to use it in a kind of 10 to 15% range as well for the sweet almond oil. You can see we're getting some lather here, definitely a little bit more than we got with the avocado. And this is also, it feels harder than the avocado. So you can get there's some bigger bubbles forming. So I like to use sweet almond oil in my recipes at that kind of 10 to 15% level because of its ability to provide conditioning, moisture, and you can see that it also has some really nice lather going on. So sweet almond oil is a good one for if you're gonna do just a single use one. This is a really good one because of its long lasting shelf life and its ability to moisturize and condition and provide lather. All right, rice bran. So rice bran is commonly used in place of olive oil, especially when you're thinking like price and availability, because olive oil really does fluctuate pretty greatly. Rice bran is a nice white bar of soap, so doesn't go too yellow. You can see that it's a nice kind of hard bar of soap, and you can see that the lather isn't great, but it's not as slimy as straight up olive oil. So that's definitely one thing to keep in mind. I think the olive oil definitely wins in the marketing department though. Like everybody's like, oh, olive oil soap, right? Castile soap, it's something. Whereas rice bran, it doesn't have a fancy name. And it doesn't have quite the longevity in the soap world that say a Castile bar of soap does, since that was really the first bars of soap that came to Europe back in the day in Spain. So you can see here that our rice bran soap oil has nice lather. It's not turning slimy on us, which is great. There's a little bit of lotion-like consistency when it dries out, but it definitely has some good lather, nice lathering ability. The bar itself is hard. It will last a pretty long time because of how the oils break down in terms of the chemical composition. All right, so here we have our canola oil. Canola oil is most commonly used to augment the olive oil in your recipe. And that's because olive oil has a pretty high price and canola oil acts very similarly. It's got a very similar saponification value. It makes a nice hard bar of soap. It can add to the kind of conditioning parts of your soap, just like olive oil adds to the gentleness and mildness. Same with canola oil. So you'll see that the lather is pretty good. When it starts to dry, the canola oil can also feel a little bit lotion-like, but not nearly as slimy as you see your olive oil. So that makes canola a really good addition in addition to olive oil. Again, from a marketing standpoint, you never can beat olive oil, but canola oil is a good way to decrease the total cost of your recipe if you are looking to decrease the cost of your total recipe and bar of soap. Now we have our Shea Butter, and the Shea Butter one, it's really white, but it's really white because it looks like the whole thing has soda ash. Now, Shea Butter is one of those hard butters, meaning it is solid at room temperature. And it typically is used for its moisturizing and conditioning abilities and its hardening abilities. It is really good for providing hardness. So for people that don't want palm oil in their soap, shea butter is often used. But you'll notice that though it contributes to the hardness of the bar of soap and the white color, its lathering ability is real low. That makes a lot of sense because this is used for moisturizing and conditioning, not as a lathering agent. And so what you can see is we have got a lot of lotion-like lather, not as slimy as the olive oil, but definitely there's not a lot of bubbling ability. Cocoa butter. So cocoa butter is also another solid at room temperature oil. And this is a really nice hard bar, a little bit more ivory. Doesn't smell like anything, doesn't smell like cocoa butter. This is typically used also in recipes to help replace palm oil because of the hardness if you don't want to use palm oil. It's also used in recipes though because of its moisturizing and conditioning properties. This is typically something you'll see, say, in a leave-on lotion or leave-on balm for, say, stretch marks or for really dry skin. And in soap, it does the same thing. It helps with moisturizing, it helps with conditioning. You can see we don't have a lot going on. There's a little bit of tiny lather, definitely getting more of that kind of lotion-like sliminess for the soap. But typically cocoa butter is really just used at about a 5%, 7%, 10% max of your recipe. And that's because it, 1, can accelerate trace, 2, kind of expensive, and 3, it clearly does not make a great bar of soap when you consider the balance of lather, hardness, and yes, moisturizing and conditioning. Now we have castor. Now castor is typically added to recipes at a 5 to 8%, sometimes all the way down to 3%, because it does help with lather stability. While it doesn't necessarily lather on its own, the properties of the oil actually help make lather last longer. It's such an interesting oil to add to your soap. It is really in like as a single 100% castor oil bar, we're getting some good lather. It's more of a yellow bar. It clearly accelerated trace. I can see because this is pretty thick in the back, and it didn't even go totally in as firmly as or as smoothly as possible. But what we're getting is some kind of nice little bubbles that are sticking around. So whereas like the cocoa butter, the bubbles just didn't stick around, the castor oil bubbles are sticking around, which makes sense because the reputation that castor oil has and the reason you add it to most bars of soap is because it helps with the lather just staying, right? The bubble that helps the lather stay. And since the consumer perception is that lather that sticks around actually is cleansing more, that's a good thing in your recipes. In summation, I hope you enjoyed watching this. If you don't remember what we talked about or showed you earlier, brambleberry.com has a full write-up article with all of these findings. But I hope you saw that our best lathering options were like the coconut oil, the rice bran oil, and the sweet almond oil. Some of the lowest lathering ones were, of course, the olive oil that hadn't been cured and dried for a full 12 months. Another low ones were like the shea butter and the cocoa butter, those ones that add to moisturizing abilities. And really what your big takeaway should be is that for you and your soap and what you're selling to your customers, you want it to be a mixture of different oils that best match what you think is the most ideal bar of soap. Do you want it to have high lather? Do you want it to have high cleansing ability? Do you want it to be more moisturizing and more conditioning? All of those things go into choosing your perfect mix. Now, Brambleberry does sell quick mixes that are based on recipes I've been making for 25 years. Sure, you can definitely use those, but if you want to customize, I hope this is a useful video and tool for you to help you customize the perfect batch for you each and every time. Would love to get a thumbs up on the video. Would love your comments on your experience with making single batch oil bars. And of course, subscribe to this channel. Get notified each and every time we come out with a new video. Until next time, happy soaping.